Drugs. That word has the ability to spark feelings both positive and negative in nature. Hydrocodone, prescribed to help high blood pressure. Hydrochlorothiazide, a diuretic used to treat nausea and abdominal pain. Both of these prescription medications are considered drugs. Methamphetamine, cocaine, marijuana. These are also considered drugs. There exists in this world both good and bad drugs. However, there's one that walks the line between good and bad. A drug that's been the topic of controversy ever since its introduction all the way back in 17th century Europe. This drug causes your arteries to constrict, affects how your body secretes gastrointestinal fluids, causes anxiety disorders, and for some people, increases suicidal thoughts and tendencies. This drug even has the capability of killing. And the most interesting part, 90% of Americans consume this drug every single day. Methyltheobromine, or as it's more commonly called, caffeine, is a dietary staple in today's society, with the most common source of it, coffee, being in many cases the only thing we consume in the morning. On average, 400 million cups of coffee are sold every day to the average American. And that's just scratching the surface. Coffee has become much more than the beverage of choice to drink with your morning meal. It's become a lifeline that helps a person make it throughout the day without collapsing from exhaustion. Although dozens of brewed coffee brands exist, the caffeine content per 8-ounce cup remains relatively similar throughout the list. The average 8-ounce cup of instant coffee provides approximately 57 milligrams of caffeine. When factoring in the fact that the average American drinks around 3 cups of coffee a day, that comes out to a staggering 171 milligrams of caffeine per day. That number only increases when looking at ground coffee, arguably the most popular method of brewing coffee at home. In an 8-ounce cup of Joe, one typically consumes a staggering 173 milligrams of caffeine. Again, with the average American drinking about 3 cups of coffee a day, that comes out to approximately 519 milligrams of caffeine per day. When looking at an annual analysis, if you drink 3 cups of coffee a day at 173 milligrams of caffeine per cup, you consume on average approximately 189,435 milligrams or 189 grams of caffeine per year. And that's just what we drink at home. An ever-expanding market in today's society are coffee shops. Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, Scooters, McDonald's McCafe. These are just the tip of the coffee shop iceberg that continues to grow every day as new restaurants are being built and opened. Each coffee shop with their own types of brews and blends have different amounts of caffeine to help get us through the day. One of the most famous chains, Starbucks, has dozens of different brews with caffeine content ranging from 15 milligrams of caffeine in the short 8-ounce sizes to a staggering 475 milligrams of caffeine in the 20-ounce venti sizes of coffees, such as the signature Blonde Roast Coffee. Coffee is far from the only source of caffeine in today's society. According to a poll from Gallup, approximately 48% of Americans consume caffeinated soda, drinking on average almost 3 12-ounce cans of soda every single day. There are also special types of sodas that are made to provide more caffeine than the average can of soda. That amount of caffeine in soda varies significantly, and there's no better example of this than the major soda brand, Mountain Dew. Not only does Mountain Dew have a wide variety of sodas, but they also have several lines of energy drinks as well, each with different amounts of caffeine content. The main line of soda flavors, such as Code Red, Livewire, Voltage, and Whiteout, all have approximately 4.5 milligrams of caffeine per fluid ounce. This adds up to about 54 milligrams of caffeine per 12-ounce can. Mountain Dew Game Fuel, a relatively newer line of Mountain Dew energy drink, contains approximately 5.6 milligrams of caffeine per fluid ounce, adding up to approximately 90 milligrams of caffeine per 16-ounce can, which is what it's traditionally packaged in. And these are far from the only lines of soda Mountain Dew has to offer, with new lines being released each year, some new lines being Mountain Dew Kickstart, Mountain Dew Spiked Lemonade, and Mountain Dew Black and White Label, all of which containing between 4.5 to 5.7 milligrams of caffeine per fluid ounce. Mountain Dew is far from the only caffeinated soda on the market. Pepsi, Mountain Dew's sister soda, also has a wide variety of caffeine content, ranging between 2.7 milligrams per fluid ounce in Pepsi Next and Pepsi True, to Pepsi Max with 4.9 milligrams of caffeine per fluid ounce. The most popular Pepsi, however, Original Pepsi, contains about 3.2 milligrams of caffeine per fluid ounce. Similarly, Coca-Cola has a wide variety of sodas with varying amounts of caffeine content, from the classic Coke with 2.8 milligrams of caffeine per fluid ounce to the equally popular Diet Coke with 3.8 milligrams per fluid ounce. All of these sources of caffeine, however, don't even hold a candle to one of the most controversial sources of caffeine in existence: energy drinks. Energy drinks are caffeinated beverages commonly packaged in 16 or higher fluid ounce cans, created with the sole purpose of providing the consumer with an inordinate amount of energy. Estimating approximately how many milligrams of caffeine is in your average energy drink can be difficult due to the caffeine level differences there are from one energy drink to another. The most common energy drinks, however, are Monster and Red Bull. The average can of Monster contains approximately 10 milligrams of caffeine per fluid ounce. Original Monster comes in both 16 and 24 ounce cans. That equals about 160 milligrams of caffeine per 16 ounce can and a staggering 240 milligrams of caffeine per 24 ounce can. There are also different lines and flavors of Monster, such as Java Monster, a line of coffee-flavored energy drinks, Muscle Monster, a line with added protein in each 15-ounce bottle, and Monster Rehab, a line of non-carbonated Monster brand tea. Each Monster line has their own unique amount of caffeine, ranging from 8.4 milligrams per fluid ounce in the Monster Max line to a staggering 12.5 milligrams per fluid ounce in each flavor of Java Monster. Monster is far from the most popular energy drink brand. That title is currently held by Red Bull. Although not as caffeinated as Monster, with a can of Original Red Bull containing approximately 9.5 milligrams of caffeine per fluid ounce, it owns more of the world's energy drink market share at a staggering 43% market share compared to Monster's 39% and other energy drink brands such as Rockstar, NOS, and AMP collectively holding approximately 16% of the market share. Red Bull are currently in the process of releasing new flavors of Red Bull, such as Red Bull Yellow, Green, Blue, Red, Purple, and Orange editions. Each new flavor has approximately the same amount of caffeine per fluid ounce as the original, at approximately 9.5 milligrams per fluid ounce. After looking at the more popular energy drinks, it's not hard to see how many parents are hesitant to give their children energy drinks. But there are some energy drinks that are even more caffeinated, to the point where there are warning labels on them explaining how they are recommended only for people over the age of 18. Monster has recently released what they are calling Total Body Fuel. Monster Rain is an energy drink sold in 16-ounce cans that contain a staggering 18.8 milligrams of caffeine per fluid ounce, which calculates out to approximately 300 milligrams of caffeine per can, which is twice as caffeinated as Monster and nearly 4 times more caffeinated than Red Bull. But Reign isn't the first energy drink to contain such jarring amounts of caffeine. Bang Energy also contains approximately 300 milligrams of caffeine per 16-ounce can. However, Bang's potency is not found solely in caffeine. It is advertised as a, quote, pre-workout energy drink, containing an energy mixture composed of caffeine, supercreatine, amino acids, B vitamins, electrolytes, and Ultra CoQ10, all of which are commonly found in pre-workout powders rather than energy drinks. It is an incredibly potent and potentially dangerous energy drink. For that reason, Bang explains that their products are, quote, intended for use by healthy individuals only. Even after looking at all of the primary sources of caffeine, there are countless other places in which you can find it. Chocolate, for instance, can contain between 4 to 34 milligrams of caffeine. Along with chocolate, foods such as frozen yogurt, pudding, even breakfast cereal may have traces of caffeine. It's the job of the consumer to make educated decisions on what kind of foods you purchase to make sure you're not getting something you may not have intended when making the initial purchase. Despite all of the negativity towards caffeine, there's still a reason why nearly every American consumes it daily. Caffeine is a stimulant of the central nervous system. By consuming caffeine, you eliminate the drowsiness and fatigue that comes with waking up in the morning, especially if you stayed up late the night before. It helps alleviate that drowsiness and tiredness that lingers after waking up. Research suggests that caffeine combined with glucose helps boost mental alertness throughout the day better than caffeine or glucose alone, but there are many other uses to speak of other than the obvious. Caffeine is also an FDA-approved product that can be used alongside painkillers such as aspirin and acetaminophen to help treat migraine, tension, and post-surgery headaches. Alongside all the known uses for caffeine, there are also many possible uses for caffeine that, with more research, can be implemented into even more medical practices to the point that it becomes a prescribed treatment for various diseases and disorders. Caffeine has been shown to temporarily increase airway function in people suffering from asthma for up to approximately 4 hours. Drinking caffeinated beverages has also been linked to lowering the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. It does not, however, aid in treating people who have already been diagnosed with it. Drinking at least 400 milligrams of caffeine a day is also linked to lowering the risk of gallbladder disease. This does, however, seem to be very dose-dependent, with 800 milligrams of caffeine a day working the best, although 800 milligrams is twice the daily recommended amount of caffeine for healthy adults prescribed by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. In addition, caffeine from coffee is linked with reduced liver scarring in people with hepatitis C. Memory also seems to improve in people who consume approximately 200 milligrams of caffeine daily by mouth, especially in people with extroverted or outgoing personalities. These results are even more prevalent in college students, which is good news considering adolescents and young adults are the fastest growing demographic that consumes caffeine, at a staggering 83.2% of them consuming caffeine regularly, with 96% of adolescents and young adults consuming caffeine occasionally, according to a study published in 2016 in the Journal of Nutrition Education and Behavior. Alongside young adults, small doses of caffeine given intravenously has been shown to improve breathing in premature babies, reducing the number of episodes of shortness of breath by 50% over 7 to 10 days of treatment. It does not, however, reduce the risk of breathing problems in premature babies. In a study of 217,000 participants, people who consumed more caffeine were shown to have a lower risk of kidney stones than those who didn't consume as much. And finally, in a study performed in 2014, consuming 3 cups of coffee a day may reduce the risk of liver cancer by 50%, while another study suggests that drinking 4 cups a day could potentially halve the risk of mouth and throat cancer. As with all things, however, there are many adverse effects caffeine has on the body, especially when too much caffeine is consumed at once. Caffeine is a substance that, like many substances similar to it, can be quite harmful without proper knowledge of dosage and how to properly consume it. A study out of the Mayo Clinic found that men who drank more than 4 8-ounce cups of coffee per day saw a 21% increase in all-cause mortality. However, those who reported consuming more than 4 cups of coffee daily were also more likely to smoke and be in poor physical health. Regardless of outside factors, moderation is key to a healthy life. Along with a higher mortality rate, as previously mentioned, caffeine can raise blood pressure. For some with lower blood pressure, this is a good thing. For many, however, with regular blood pressure, this can lead to many blood pressure-related disorders such as hypertension, ventricular hypertrophy, and heart failure. On a similar note, an increased risk in heart attacks in young adults is also a common adverse effect of too much caffeine in the body. For women, an excess of caffeine has been linked to breast tissue cysts. Women who consumed around 250 milligrams of caffeine per day had an increased chance of developing fibrocystic breast disease or painful lumpy breasts, and women who drank 250 to 500 milligrams of caffeine per day have nearly double the chances of developing cysts than women who don't drink more than 200 milligrams of caffeine per day. Alongside developing cysts, women who drink excessive amounts of caffeine are also nearly 70% more likely to develop incontinence or an inability to control the bladder. For older women, menopausal symptoms have been shown to worsen with an excess of caffeine. Insomnia and indigestion are also very common side effects of drinking an excess of caffeine. At its core, caffeine is a stimulant, and if excessive use of caffeine to function becomes frequent enough, a dependency on caffeine arises. There's been discussions over whether or not it is addictive, and to truly answer that question, you have to take a look at what an addiction is defined as. The American Psychiatric Association defines addiction as, quote, a mental disease that's manifested by compulsive use despite harmful consequence. In short, if you are aware that a substance will cause you harm, or the use of that substance has harmful consequences, and you continue to use it anyway, you are addicted to that substance. Northeast instructor Misty Wertman explains exactly how caffeine produces dopamine in our brains.
Well, the dominant effect from a psychological perspective is really focusing on what it does to the neurotransmitters. We increase levels of dopamine and norepinephrine, which is what most people usually consider to be the jolt that we get. Dopamine influences specifically emotional components. So when people talk about, feeling more alert and energetic and just happier, that's the association. The challenge is that when we do normative studies, you can't really tell the difference between people that don't use caffeine and people that do. Does it really create that emotional effect, or is that an expectancy effect?
Caffeine is a drug. There's no denying that fact. It's a member of the methylxanthine class, the same class of drug as theophylline, a drug commonly used in the treatment of asthma. Although you can't necessarily get addicted to it, you can become dependent on it to function. A knowledge and an understanding of it will help you not only use it properly, but may also help you live healthier and perhaps make you a bit more productive in the process.